Okay, this is lesson 6.5, which is just 0 and negative powers part 2. So we're going to go into more complex problems. Quick review of some negative exponents. If you have problems that have negative exponents, you move them from where they're at to the other spot. So if they're in the denominator, you move it to the numerator because it's asking for the reciprocal. So we need to flip this to x to the third over 1 and make it a positive. This is currently x to the negative fourth over 1, so it wants the reciprocal, so it'll be 1 over x to the fourth. This is 1 over x to the negative eighth, so again we want the reciprocal, so we'll flip it to x to the eighth over 1. There are going to be situations where you're given a positive exponent and for some reason you might need to write it with a negative exponent. So if you apply a negative exponent, you're making it the reciprocal. Right? So this is x to the 10th over 1, so we'll flip it, but we need to make this exponent a negative, so that 1 over x to the negative 10th is x to the 10th over 1. These two things are equivalent. Again, I'll flip this, except now I need to make the exponent negative. This is x to the first power, so I'll flip it. So it's 1 over x to the first, except I'll make it a negative exponent. So just a quick review. So we're going to do these three problems together, except I'm going to do them two separate ways. I'm going to do one method and then the second method, because there are several different ways to solve this. So for method number 1 is usually going to be the simplest one, the one that's more characteristic to everything else you've been doing. And what I like to do is always move things so that the exponent is positive. If you notice here, this is 2 to the negative third, x to the fourth, divided by x to the negative second. So I'll first rewrite the positive exponent where it's at. Then I'll flip these. I'll take the reciprocals. So 2 to the negative third is going to the denominator. X to the negative second is going to the numerator. Now I'll simplify. X to the fourth times x squared is going to be x to the 6th over 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Again, that's method number 1. Method number 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, instead, I'm going to choose to always subtract the powers. So 2 to the negative third is fine. Then this is x to the fourth. And I'm going to subtract negative 2. I'm subtracting the powers because that's using the quotient of products property. 2 to the negative third. Okay, I'm just going to leave this as 2 to the negative third. This will become x to the 6th power. Last step is to rewrite negative exponents in the denominator. X to the 6th divided by 2 to the third, which is 8. I'll do this 1 or 2 more times. All right, number 2. Again, the first thing that I like to do, and this is the basis, like what you should do, you see this negative exponent is applied to this entire thing. So I'm going to move that entire thing to the denominator. There's a 4x in the denominator already. Then 2x to the fourth to the second. Then we can solve this however we want. I'm going to raise each thing to the second power. So this will be 2 to the 1 times 2 power, x to the 4 times 2 power, which is 1 over 4x, 2 squared is 4, x to the 8th. Lastly, simplify. 4 times 4 is 16. X to the 1 plus 8 is 9. Again, you could have expanded if you wanted to, whatever is most relevant. The second way that you could do this is I'm going to raise each of these to the negative 2nd power. So this becomes 2 to the 1 times negative 2 power, x to the 4 times negative 2 power, all over 4x. This becomes 2 to the negative second, x to the negative 8th, over 4x. If you want to, you can now move things, if you like. Many different methods to do this. I'll go ahead and move them. This becomes 1 over 2 to the second is 4, and then x to the 8th, which is 1 over 16, x to the 9th. Last one, okay. Whew, number 3, that's a really tough one. What I'm going to choose to do first is I'm going to choose to simplify this stuff inside. I'm going to get this down as simple as I can, okay, by first moving that. Okay, I'll go straight underneath there. 2x to the 5th, z to the 3rd, over 10x to the 3rd. This is moving to the numerator. I'm going to simplify. So this is 2x to the 5th, z to the 3rd, z to the 4th, over 2 times 5, x to the 3rd. Anything over itself is 1. So now we have x to the 2nd, z to the 7th, over 5 to the negative 2 power. Now with the negative 2, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip it. Flip the inside, do the reciprocal. Then I'm going to go ahead and write this whole thing twice. Multiply straight across 25 over x to the 4th, z to the 14th. That was method 1, which is pretty tough. Method 2, what I'm going to choose to do first is raise the numerator to the negative 2 power and raise the denominator to the negative 2 power. So this will become 2x to the 5th, to the 3rd to the negative 2 power, over 10x to the 3rd, z to the negative 4th to the negative 2 power. Then I'll raise each individual thing to the negative 2 power, 2 to the 1 times negative 2 power, x to the 5 times negative 2 power, z to the 3 times negative 2 power, over 10 to the 1 times negative 2 power, x to the 3 times negative 2 power, z to the negative 4 times negative 2 power. Simplify. 2 to the negative 2nd, x to the negative 10th, z to the negative 6th, over 10 to the negative 2nd, x to the negative 6th, z actually to the positive 8th. I move anything that has a negative exponent, which is everything except for z. 10 to the 2nd, x to the 6th, over 2 to the 2nd, x to the 10th, z to the 6th, z to the 8th. All right. Combine things, right? This becomes 100 over 4, x to the 10 minus 6 power, z to the 6 plus 8 power, which is, of course, 25 over x to the 4th, z to the 14th. So whichever way makes the most sense for you. Remember to always do what makes sense for you.